Welcome back to part 2 of the biggest night of our entire lives. If you've not seen the previous video, make sure to go back right now and watch before we get into the live stream and into the post live stream hands, which are some 10k plus pots, and we'll get to that later. But let's get to this hand. We have ace queen offsuit under the gun. We just called $40. Juan raises to 200. We see a call from the button. We see a call from the small blind, and it's back on me. Definitely could go for a limp squeeze here. This time I just go for a flat call, and we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes 9-5-4 all spades, and it checks all the way through. So the turn is a 3 of clubs, and it checks all the way back to Juan, the initial aggressor, who bets 600. DK makes the call with ace 10 of the 10 of spades, and in this spot I'm really conflicted whether I should call and float. We pick up a gut shot straight draw to go along with our queen high spades, and we actually can see we have the best hand. We do not know that in the moment. I do decide to make the call after a little talking with Juan, and the river is the 7 of clubs. When it checks to me, there is a one-liner on the board, and I don't really think Juan's gonna have a 6 too often here. I consider bluffing, but just check to Juan, and let's just go live to see what happens.
Juan's debating it. She checks.
Frankie
takes it down. How about that, Frankie?
Love that turn call from him.
Ace high. You could have bluffed.
Oh Get out of here, let's go! I beat Juan. Woo! You didn't bluff? Why didn't you bluff? You always bluff. You bluffed every time.
I missed that on the flop because I thought I didn't have that spade.
Let's go.
There's a $100 straddle on this hand, and DK limps in the cutoff. We're on the button and peel pocket sixes. I decide to try to isolate DK in position here and open this one up to 320, and we get punished immediately when Sashimi 3-bets us in the small blind to 1010. Folds back to DK, and he makes a call, and now it's on to me. This is a super tricky spot because typically with pocket pairs, when you want to set mine, the bet that you have to call should be less than 8 to 10 times the amount of money that you have in your stack. Right now, this bet is about 7 times the amount we have in our stack, and so we're not getting the direct implied odds to make the call. However, there is some money out there in the middle already. Ultimately, I decide on a fold. Sashimi and DK go heads up to a flop, and it comes, yup, you guessed it, 6 high. I would have flopped top set, and the cameraman knows it too. Shout out to Ryan Feldman. He shows us deep in the punish chamber here, and we missed a big opportunity here with the pocket sixes. Super unfortunate.
We are heads up for last in the stand-up game with Billy, and we look down the hijack and pocket threes. On the gun, Sashimi makes it $200 to go. We flat call on the hijack. The cutoff, Juan 3-bets us to $800 with the beautiful king deuce suited. DK cold calls with ace 4 offsuit. Of course, he wants to get in there. And when Sashimi folds, it's back on me. I'm gonna hope to hit my 3 here. I make the call. And the flop comes 6 queen 8. I check it over to Juan, and we love to see her check this one back. The turn is the 8 of hearts. When DK checks to me, I think this is an opportunity that I probably have the best hand, and I want to deny equity from all the other players. I decide to take the aggression now. We really do need to sit down, so if we get called, we might have to turn this hand to a bluff later. I make it $800 to go, and thankfully, Juan and DK make the fold, and we casually scoop in a 3k pot. Let's go.
This was one of the more fun hands of the night that I played. We've got ace queen offsuit in early position and open to 140, and we go heads up versus Sia in the big blind, who makes the call. Flop comes king high with the flush draw. This board's gonna connect way better for me than her, so when she checks to me, I bet small to 120, and now she check raises me to 430. Very interesting spot because, to be honest, on this board, she shouldn't have too many check raises. However, I know Sia's a very strong thinking player, and I think some meta comes into play here where she knows that I'm going to be c-betting this board very wide, and so therefore she's going to check raise me even wider and might have some weaker value hands like a pair of 9s, a pair of 5s, or just a complete bluff that we're currently beating with ace high. We've got the range advantage as well as some backdoor straight and flush draws. I decide to call in position and see what she wants to do on the turn. Turn's a nice one. It's the jack of hearts, giving us both a flush draw and a straight draw. Fantastic connecting card that's going to be better for me, and she decides to slow down and check. Now I have to decide whether I want to bluff at this board or check this one back and see if we can make a hand. Now, because I thought she might be check raising with some weaker hands like a pair of 9s or a pair of 5s, I decided to bet here, take aggression, and put all those hands in a tough spot. I bet 630, and as you can see here, she had ace high as well, and we had her beat the whole way, and she quickly gets out of the way, and we scoop in a nice one. This hand we're playing a $100 Hold'em Bomb Pot. That means there's $900 in the middle before any cards come out, or 9 ways to a flop, and it comes 9-8-4. DK leads out for 300, and it's now on to me, and I look down at 10-9 offsuit. We've got top pair with some backdoor straight draws, and I decide to peel one here in position to DK, folds around to Margot, and she makes a call as well, and we're 3 ways to a turn, which is another 4. Super safe card from me, making it much less likely someone has 2 pair or a set, and DK ramps up the pressure, continuing to bet for $700 this time. Now, against a tighter player, I think this is a pretty clear-cut fold, but against DK, he can have a bunch of bluffs, as well as can be overvaluing weaker hands like a weaker 9, or maybe even a pair of 8s here. So I decided to stick around for one more street, make the call for 700 in position, and Margot gets out of the way with her pair of 8s, and thank God she did, because the river is a board pairing 8. It's on to DK, and as you can see here, he has jack high. He's deciding whether or not to bluff here, and to be honest, if he bets, this is going to put me in the blender. However, we don't come to that because he decides to give up and check. I decide to check this one back. We both flip over our cards, and we scoop in a nice one our way, stacking up. Let's go. This hand, Juan opens a 120 in early position, DK calls in the big blind, and I decide to defend my straddle with king 10 offsuit for 80 more. We go to a flop of queen jack 10 with 2 diamonds and a heart. We've got an open ender as well as bottom pair. Let's see if we can make something happen. It checks to Juan, and she checks this one back. Turn is another jack, bringing in 2 flush draws now, and when DK checks, I decide to check this one as well, see what Juan wants to do on this connecting turn card, and she decides to bet $300. DK gets out of the way, and it's back onto me. I don't really see any merit in raising here, but I do decide to make the call with intentions of potentially stealing this on the river with some blockers to very strong hands. I call the 300, and the river is an 8 of hearts, very connecting card. I check it over to her, and she bets small for $400. Now this is where my spidey senses began tingling. I start to think that she can't have too strong of a hand here. I expect her to bet most of her nutted hands on the flop, like any 2 pairs, top pair, or straights. And so when she checks, I think she's weighted more towards either a 10, a bluff, or maybe trip jacks at the best. If I check raise here, I might be able to put her in a really tough spot and get her to fold. You can see me in the tank thinking about it, and I decide to pass on this spot and just let it go. But I was thinking about it, and I think in maybe some lower stakes games, I might want to pull the trigger here.
And here we are for the first 5 post-stream hands where Max Payne Monday turns uncapped. That's insane, and our stack is 14,800, which is also insane. We have Jack 10 of clubs on the button. There's only gonna raise to 40, and DK and the low jack just raises to 410. Just 10 bigs, because why not? Normally a spot I'd be looking to 3-bet. Here I'm looking to see a flop, and for a decent price of 410, I just flat call. The big blind calls and does the under the gun limper, so we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes A7-5 all clubs. We flop a flush, and it checks to me. We're gonna go for a smaller bet here. We make it $700 to go, and I was just ready to bet 3 streets here for value. That felt totally normal and comfortable. Which didn't feel comfortable was seeing a re-raise to $2,500 from the big blind. This is Ali G. Under the gun folds, DK folds, and it's back to me. We're playing for the biggest game of my life, and I'm just honestly thinking that this player has a ton of King X and Queen X flushes in their range, and I'm thinking that we block the 4th nut, so I'm not actually thinking it's a great situation at all anymore. He's a pretty loose player, so he's going to be calling with like King 5 suited, Queen 8 suited, all these like flush draw hands that have me drawing dead. And also he could have like King X bluffs of clubs, 1 pair like King Queen with the King of clubs, and this is a huge game for me, and I don't feel comfortable putting in right now. We're gonna go to our pro Jonathan. I make the fold here. Jonathan, what would you have done on the turn?
You have to ask, will this player ever bluff with a random King of clubs or Queen of clubs? Also, will they ever check raise with a hand like a lower flush or with a set or 2 pair? I think all of that's kind of likely, especially against your somewhat small bet. So because of that, I think you just have to call. My plan would be to call the flop check raise, call the turn bet, and call the river bet unless the board are not off with another club or the board paired. This is a spot where I realize you're playing for a lot of money. I realize you're deep stacked. I realize to some extent you kind of have a bluff catcher, but it's not really a bluff catcher because I do think some players will check raise weaker flushes and sets and 2 pairs here. And because of that, I think you just have to call down. And sometimes you can lose a lot of money, but sometimes you win a lot of money too.
Next hand is pocket nines, and there's just a regular 10, 20, 40 game now. I make it 120 to go in the low jack, and we get DJ Washburn in the cutoff to make the call. Flop comes 10, 6, 2, monotone again, this time all spades. We do have the 9 of spades, and I decide to check here with second pair and a flush draw, and Chris, DJ, makes it $300 to go. He just pots it right away. And I guess that's pretty normal in these super deep stack games. I make the call, and we're going to assess the turn card, which is the 3 of diamonds. No help to our hand. I check again. The pot is about $900, and he bets $1,400. So another overbet here, this time for more than the pot. And at this point, with a bad flush draw on second pair, I'm going to give our hand up. And thankfully, he does show us a 10, so it was the right fold. Literally right after the stream, I started picking up hands. This time with ace king, one rotation later in the low jack, I make $120 to go, and the cutoff Ali G 3-bets us to 400. Small blind DJF, cold calls to 400, and now it's back on me playing about $14,000 deep. I decide to just play above my range and call here. Although a 4-bet is usually the standard play and probably mandatory, but it's a pretty big game, and I'm happy just to see a flop. Flop comes 7, 8, 7. Small blind checks, I check, and Ali G in the cutoff checks it back, which we love to see. The turn is the 3 of clubs, and now DJF takes the lead for $620. I've seen DJF on the stream get completely out of line on a lot of flops when he senses weakness. I have the best no pair, so I make the call, and Ali G in the cutoff folds, which is awesome. And now we're heads up to the river, which is a 10 of diamonds. And when he checks it, I am very happy to check it back and see if our ace king is good, and it is good. We win almost 3K pot.
We end the stream up about $500, pick up a few playable hands post-stream, mostly 10-8 suited. We got several times where we opened it, got a few callers, and completely bricked each flop, which actually adds up quite a bit. And then we get into one interesting spot with king-queen, where Billy opens it up in earlier position to 120, and I decide to 3-bet him here to 360. Folds back around to Billy, and he makes a call. Flop comes 10-4-3 with 2 hearts. We've got that king of hearts. He checks to me. I bet small for 200, and immediately we get welcomed with a check raise to 700. Now, I know this is an easy spot. You're thinking just fold your king high, but Billy has shown that he's trying to push us around all stream, and he can certainly be doing this with a bunch of garbage hands like gut shots, weak pairs, flush draws, complete airballs, really a lot of cards. And so king high here with a backdoor flush draw can certainly be good. We don't have to be right too often if we make the call here, as well as we're in position. I decide to make a very optimistic peel here and call for 500 more. Turn is a 6. That's an absolute awful card for me because that's going to connect with a lot of the hands he was bluffing with. However, he decides to check it over to me. This card just really shouldn't connect with me at all, so I check this one back. River is a deuce, another awful card for me. He checks once more now, and I consider stabbing at it, but get the sense that Billy's not really looking to fold right now. I check it back, and he shows ace queen of hearts, so he actually had us completely dominated the whole way, and he scoops this one in with ace high. Definitely an optimistic peel that was completely unnecessary and ended up costing us.
Literally the very next hand after ace king, we pick up king 10 of diamonds, scooping in chips. I put in a raise to $120, and doesn't look pretty strong to raise while scooping in chips. I think so, but Ali G doesn't think so. He 3-bets me again back to back, this time to $400. Sia in the button makes the call, and I'm just gonna call again like I did with ace king. This hand's definitely more comfortable, just a flat call the small 3-bet and head to a flop, which comes 10, 8, 6 with 1 diamond. I check, Ali G checks, and Sia checks. The turn is the king of clubs, and this is where Ali G starts vlogging the hand, definitely in response to what I was doing when I started vlogging, and we're gonna get some of his POV. He says that this card is a great hand to bet on, so he pots it for $1,200. Sia folds, we've got top 2 pair. At this point, he's got a king or he's bluffing. I'm not going to let his bluffs off the hook by check raising here. I'm just going to call and let him bluff on the river. I call, check in the dark, and the river is the 4 of spades. This is when he decides that it's time to pot it again for $3,000. And I snap call. I'm very happy to win an almost $8,000 pot, but I think in hindsight, I probably could have considered raising to get value from ace king and king queen. Oh well, we win another huge pot and we are running good. This last hand, wow, gear up for the biggest pot in Next Gen Poker's history. We're playing a double board Omaha bomb pot in a 10-20-40 game. I think everyone put $100 in the middle. So it's about 600, 700 on the flop. We're playing 7-handed, and our hand is Queen 9 6 3. First flop comes King Queen 3. Second flop comes Jack 10 8. We flop the nuts. A straight in Omaha is very dangerous, and DK leads us off with a pot to $700. And then our buddy Jello, who does not have a big stack, he's got about 3,000 starting stack, makes the call to 700. We're sitting here with the nuts on one board and 2 pair on the other, bottom 2 pair at that. At this point, I think Jello has a pretty strong hand, but he didn't re-raise it all in himself, which I think he would do if he had the nuts. So I don't think I'm chopping with him. Obviously, we could be chopping Queen 9 with DK or another person behind us, which makes this hand very scary. We do have a hand that wants to bet out the other draws, so I decide to take the one chocolate covered chip I have, and I say the magical words pot. What the heck is going on? Everybody folds, and it's back to DK after I put a $3,500 bet on the flop, and DK makes the call. Jello looks disgusted and folds. So we're heading off, heads up to the turn. Please, can the nuts hold one time? Turn on the first board is the king of diamonds, which makes our 2 pair pretty bad. And the turn on the second board is the king of spades, giving us the second best straight. And now DK checks it over to me. The pot is absolutely ginormous, and I don't feel comfortable betting with the second nuts on one board and just 1 pair on the other. So I check this one back, and the river comes the 10 of spades and the 3 of diamonds. And DK says the P word, $8,500 to me. And we have the second nuts on one board and basically absolutely nothing on the other. So we can call and hope to chop, or we can call and lose the entire pot and lose all the profit that we had worked for so hard. I definitely think that I was in the mindset of, in general, especially with the fold earlier with Jack 10, in the mindset of just trying to, you know, get a profit and rack up good money in the night. I don't think that's the right mindset. In this spot exactly, I was definitely worried about the money, but this is just not a good Omaha spot to be in general. You're calling at best to chop. You have the second nuts. Ace Queen beats you on both boards. So I'm actually fine with what I did. I made the fold here, and DK shows us a super good hand, but we actually did have him on the top board. Oh well, we're gonna get our final numbers for the night in a second. What an amazing experience, and I'm sure I'll be back on that stage soon.
Felt like a badass in that one. In for $7,000, out for $12,560 for a huge profit. What a night. Hope to be back soon.
Amazing experience. Didn't go my way though. In for $4,000, out for $2,000. Cop some merch. Come play with us at Poker House. See you in the next one.